Hi everybody, how are you? I'm trying a new setup, so I'm just going to find myself on my phone so I can see your comments. I don't know if it's going to pop up on my phone, but we will see. How are you all? Happy New Year, 2020. It's just bizarre, isn't it? How it just slips in before you realize, and there you are in 2020. I'm just looking for I'm looking for myself on my phone because my computer is over there. I have this thing. I've got this new arrangement, and I'm trying to make it work. I can't even see. I can't even see what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm looking at my computer. I see some of you have arrived. I don't know how to find myself on my phone, so I might have trouble seeing your comments today. Hang on. Recent. There it is. I found myself. That's
Trying
excellent.
a new setup, so I'm just going to find.
No.
I see it.
I
Some
need
of
to
you
make
have
myself
arrived.
quiet.
I don't know how to find myself on my phone, so I might have trouble seeing your comments today.
Just turn off the sound so it's really soft. Right, I can see you now. Hi, Julie. How are you? Hi, Amanda. Nice to see you again. She says, hope you had a good break. Kind of had a break. I've been knitting a lot over the break, which is good. I did manage to have a bit of downtime over Christmas, and we had a lovely Christmas and New Year. It's funny weather here. It's sort of funny weather. It's really, really grey and cloudy. There are those terrible, terrible fires happening in Australia, and we're not so far away. And I'm wondering how much of that is affecting us. I think a fair amount is affecting us. But the other day, it must have been at the weekend, the sky in the afternoon was completely orange here, just completely orange. So that was actually from the smoke, apparently. The smoke has made its way up New Zealand, over from Australia, and made its way up New Zealand, and it hit us here in Auckland. It was like there was this, I have never seen anything like it. It was a orange golden haze everywhere. It was like someone had put a sepia filter on the world. It was really eerie. Everything was deathly quiet. It was horrible. Birds weren't singing. The wind was really still. It was really, really funny. So we had that a couple of days ago, and then since then it's been cloudy, heavy cloud cover, quite grey, cool, really quite cool. It's always a bit funny at this time of year, but it's quite cool at the moment. So anyway, we'll see. My brother got back from a camping holiday up north, which is where we go camping, and told me it was absolutely beautiful blue skies and hot days every day. So we're away in a couple of weeks. So cross your fingers that we get some good weather while we're up there, because I don't want to miss out on my whole summer because of cloud and cold weather. So it's funny. Anyway, I'm having a look to see how you're going. Everyone say good morning, everyone. Amanda said you had that in North Canterbury a couple of days earlier. It was really eerie. Sarah said it was really freaky with the orange sky and the birds sleeping. It was, wasn't it? It was really quiet. I mean, I hate to think how it must be in Australia. My heart goes out to you, everyone over there. It just sounds dire and scary. And I really hope that it finishes soon. It's awful. It's really awful hearing all the news from Australia. And we feel pretty close to Australia down here, where it's only a couple of hours away in a plane. So what I thought I'd do today was, it's 5 years since I decided to really have a go at Truly Myrtle. So I had my blog. Some of you will have been following me since the very beginning, and I always get confused about the year of that. And I think it was 2012. I think was the year I started. It was it was this time of year because it was snowing in the UK. I was in the UK. I'd been following knitting blogs. Blogs were big then. Those were the days of blogs. I'd been following knitting blogs, and I discovered Ravelry. I'd been to a big yarn festival in London, and I realized that there were other people in the world making stuff, and it wasn't just me. It was quite a revelation. So I realized that in about 2010. By 2012, I think, I had been following lots of blogs, and I just really wanted to say something. So I started my own blog because it was a really good way of communicating with people. We didn't have, I don't remember, did we even have Facebook? I wasn't really a big Facebook user as on my private page. I wouldn't have had Facebook then. Maybe I did. I don't remember. But that wasn't a thing. And Instagram wasn't around. The Ravelry forums were really active, but it wasn't visual and it wasn't alive. And so I found these blogs with photos and chatting and people chatting in the comments, and I really liked it. So I started my blog, and I think it was January 2012, and off I went. And I still had, I had a 2-year-old at that stage. My youngest was 2. Some of my bigger kids were at school, and I just used to do it for fun. I used to make stuff and show stuff on my blog and take lots of photos, and some of you have been around since then. And then through the course of that, I really decided that I wanted to have a go at this knitting designing thing. I don't know. I can't really remember the thought processes that I had around all of it, except that I wanted to have a go. I had been trying to design things for my own kids on a smaller scale, obviously smaller scale, and I wanted to have a go at just releasing a pattern. It just looked like a lot of fun, and I knew that at some point I wanted to go back to work, and I didn't want to go back to my legal job that I had before. That the kind of work I did before I had kids was completely incompatible with children, and by that stage I'd been out of it by about 11 years anyway, so I wasn't planning to go back to that in a hurry. So I started designing a couple of patterns. So I did actually, while I was in the UK, I think I released one pattern, and then we got back to New Zealand. I think it was the end of 2013, the very end. And I think the following year I released another pattern. So that was 2014. I think I released one, maybe 2. I don't really remember. But when my youngest was due to start school in January 2015, she started at the end of the month, but I thought I'm going to start with the new year, and that's it. I'm going to have a go at this. Now I've got all my 4 kids at school, and I've got some time in the day. I didn't anticipate that the days would feel quite so short as they do, and that life would still be really busy, but never mind. I just got started, and I thought I would make Truly Myrtle a little business for myself, and I would just see how it goes. And I kept saying to myself, okay, I'll just give myself a year, or I'll give myself 2 years, or I'll just see where I am in a while. Because in the very beginning, I sold a few patterns, but I didn't sell many patterns, and it certainly didn't look like anything like a business at all. And I didn't really know anything about businesses, and I didn't know anything about anything really. I was still learning about designing. I was learning about how to run a business online, and so it was all very slow. It was very fast behind the scenes. I worked really hard, but it was sort of a slow progress that I made along those years. Everyone's still saying hello, so that's great. I'm probably a bit behind on my comments than I am on my video. So yeah, so that's how I started, and I started the mini mag, and I started a podcast. I thought I just went all or nothing, I think. And so I started at that point a monthly podcast. It's terrifying looking back at myself because it's 5 years ago, and it's really the oddest thing watching yourself age online. It's a really, I don't know if I really like it very much, but there I am anyway. So I started the podcast, I started the mini mag, and I started thinking about releasing patterns. And at first it was shawls, because I kind of had figured some of those out, and hats and stuff like that. And I really wanted to do a garment, but I was super daunted about that. I didn't know where to begin. I bought myself books, and I searched online, but there is no real resource in one place at all, and there still isn't really, on how to design patterns. Any patterns really, or certainly garments. And I had to cobble together lots of information from lots of different places to try and figure it out, but I didn't do that at first. But what I thought I'd do is I'd show you over the last 5 years my favorite bits that I've designed, because when I look at it, it's quite a mountain of things. I realize I've worked really hard. I've done heaps of knitting. I've done heaps of stuff. I've had a ball. Slowly over time, this has turned into a thing, and you guys have all followed me along. And I mean, really, you make it all possible, because I couldn't just sit there here. I mean, I could just sit here on my own and design things and throw it out, but it takes so much time that really I would probably just be tidying the house and making a few more meals and stuff like that instead. So you guys make it really possible. So anyway, I thought I'd look and see what I designed every year, and I would see the one thing. I would choose the one thing that jumped out at me. And so I managed that for the first year, but actually I didn't even really manage that very well for the first year. As the years went on, so many things have jumped out at me. So you'll have to forgive me because there's quite a few things to show you. So the first thing that I designed that I still have a real fondness for is this little Southern shawl. Now, do you remember this one? Southern was, I actually designed this with Helene from Happy Go Knitty. She might remember. She had little yarn clubs, and I I don't know whether she contacted me or I contacted her. I was pretty gung ho. I was out there saying hi to everyone and making myself known to people so that I could get patterns made. But anyway, I can't remember which way it went. But I agreed that I would design one little pattern for her yarn club. And so this was the little pattern I designed. It's a single skein shawl, and it's called Southern. Now, can you see? Yeah, you can see the details on that quite well. And I had a ball doing this one. So it's a little asymmetric triangle. It starts at the top, and it's just it's one skein. It's only little, and I used to like to wear it. I don't wear this one as much these days, but it is still one of my little favorites. Actually, I used to wear it like this. I used to wear it more like a bandana and then pull these bits to the side. I'm not going to try every single one on. I'll be here all year. But there we go. I used to wear it a bit like, oh, that's the wrong side. I used to wear it a bit like that. That one tucked underneath, sort of like that. So it was pulled onto the side, but I can't get it right because I'm all back to front here. But there we go. I used to sort of wear it a bit like that. And I'm seeing if everyone is saying anything on my podcast, but in the comments. Anyway, that's how I sort of more or less used to wear it. A little more decoratively than that, but it was a fun little one. And actually, I've just been thinking in the last sort of 6 months how I would like to redo it again in a bigger shawl, because now at the time when I started, single skein shawls were really popular and lots of people had single skein shawls. It's amazing how time has changed, how times have changed, how trends have changed, and how things have changed, because lots of people were making single skein items. The idea of designing something large that wasn't a garment was pretty unheard of. There weren't too many big shawls around, or big cows, or anything like that. There's no big stuff really around except for garments. So, and really shawls at that time, shawls were everything. Do you remember there was just a huge a flood of shawls in the market because shawls were so much fun. The tide has changed slightly, and now a lot of people are, I think perhaps a lot of people got into knitting when shawls were big, and then now people are really keen to knit garments, and so there's a lot of garments selling. But I am seeing a slight shift again, and I'm seeing a shift again, and I'm interested to see how we go, where we go with what we want to knit, because I think we get sick of knitting the same thing over and over, even though we don't necessarily realize it at the time. Our fingers are itching for something else. Anyway, I could talk about this forever. So that was my first one, Southern. It wasn't my first shawl, but it's the one that sticks in my mind as one I really love. And I love the little points at the bottom. There's so much about this that really appeals to me. That whole design aesthetic, which I've grown to realize is mine. I had no idea at the beginning. Texture, and the changes in texture in the body, and that sort of little bit of architectural lace, I realized, and just things a little bit interesting details. I realized those are the things I love. I had no idea when I started. I think in the same year, I think it was the same year actually, I also released Rattan, and Rattan has been one of those shawls that I have had, another single skein shawl. This used to be the shawl where I used to wear this a lot, and I used to get the most comments about this shawl. People used to always comment about it. So I don't know whether it was the color or the shape or what it was, but it's a really easy to wear, throw it on shawl, and it's full of these little, can you see? They're all twisted stitches. I actually knitted this shawl twice when I made it, because originally I didn't do it with the twisted stitches, and it just wasn't right. I think I'd wanted to, but I thought that it might be too daunting, and so I re-knitted it. All the stitches and pearls are twisted in the ribbing, and it just makes it really pop. And did I tell you, I didn't finish telling you my story about this one. I'm thinking of making a 2 skein version. I will do that at some point. I have to get round to it. I just have to sit down and do the maths and make it work. But rattan, you can make it bigger. Of course, if you make it bigger, it makes it a much, much longer. So just you have to bear that in mind if you're going to make a bigger version. So I think that was the first year. And so I did all shawls. I may have done a hat that year as well. That was 2015. And I may have done a hat, but I was pretty much all shawls, and I was still itching to do a garment. Anyway, in my second year, this is the one that I remember. And I think this might have been the first one I knitted in my second year, in 2016. And I remember it because we were camping. And this one is funny because it reminds me, it's not funny, it's cool, I love it. It's called Joss, and it's knitted out of it's knitted out of a yarn that you can't get anymore. Well, you can still get it, but not from the original people. You can get a little bit of it from Prosper Yarn, and it's a pure wool. It's a Romney, isn't it? It's a Romney cross, I think, or a Romney. So it's quite a woolly wool, and it's called Joss. And you start at the point and you work your way all the way through, and then you get to these fun sections here. And then you finish at the top point. And I invented this one when we were camping in January years ago, 2016. And I can remember sitting and camping, and I'd taken stitch dictionaries with me, and I'd taken my notes, and I don't think I even had a proper computer at that stage that was mine. I think I was still using the family computer. And I sat in my chair with all the kids playing and running around in the beautiful sunny days, camping outside our tent, and I knitted the shawl. I went with 2 skeins of yarn and no idea. And by the time I think I finished it at home, but I got the guts of it done while I was away. And so it's quite, it's not too tricky to do. I think that's what I'm trying to say, as well as, isn't it funny how you stitch memories into stuff you're knitting? You just have all these memories associated when you look at them. You remember making them, often remember making them. Or I think when you start wearing them, you start to have those memories of actually wearing them, because I think when they're handmade, they become real treasures, don't they? They become living things in our history that tell so many stories, certainly for the person that made them. And sometimes I think for the person that receives them as well, if you give them to someone else, unlike other stuff in our wardrobe, I think it's quite different. So anyway, this is a fun one. It's not too tricky, and you just sort of twist the stitches and lock them down the middle. But I've seen this one knitted in so many beautiful combinations, and the ones that have used silk merinos give it that real shiny, drapey look. And Joss has been a really fun one, and I love this shape. I just love the long shape with the pointed ends. I think it's super wearable. So Joss stands out for me as one that I remember and from those early days. 2017, I tried to think about which one I loved best in 2017, and it was a complete impossibility. So I may have, I lose track of when I released my first sweater, and it could have been 2016. And then I released this little cardigan as well, and then I re-released it. I may have re-released it in 2017 with bigger sizes. It had a few sizes that I added to the top. I think that's right. I can't remember. But this is probably, partly because it was made so long ago and partly because I love it, is my most worn cardigan of all time, I think. So this is my Timely cardigan. It's the one with the little stripes. I still wear it now. In fact, I'm wearing it a lot at the moment because it's so cool outside, and it's cropped, a little cropped body. It's got the little crop sleeves. It's fun little detailing. It's a neat little fit. When I made this one, I thought about Nigella Lawson, and I thought about Nigella Lawson with her little cardigans that sat back, but the necks didn't collapse, the necks didn't drop down when you're wearing it. So the neck would sit up and down, and the front would come down. And so that was, I designed this one a long time before I actually released it, because I designed it for myself when I was still doing just my blog. When I lived in the UK. So when I came to release it, though, I looked at my old notes and I didn't know what I was talking about. So I had to completely start from scratch. I had my original version, so I knew the detailing I liked, and I just started from scratch and I designed it all over again and graded it at the same time. That means made it into all the different sizes. So anyway, this one has been one of my, and I know your, favorite cardis to make. I think it's so much fun using the variegated yarn to create the stripes. I think it just adds to that absolute fun of it, doesn't it? And I have just worn and worn and worn and worn it, and it just goes to show how well this yarn holds up. Excuse me. It's a merino silk bamboo yarn. It's called Daintree. That's the name of the base, and it's from Skane, Australia. And it is, I've used this a couple of times, this yarn. It is a lovely light summer yarn, but it's also incredibly hard wearing. I cannot believe how well this has stood up. So this was 2017. I have worn this so much for at least 3 years. Probably more than 3 years, I think, because I think I re-released it in 2017. So there we go. That's a fun one. So that same year, I was trying to think of what else were my favorites, and there are two shawls that jump out of me from 2017. And the first one is this one. And this is one of my all-time favorite shawls. I think it might be the all-time favorite shawl that I've designed, because it is so fun to knit. It is so much fun to knit. I had so much fun designing it. It's called Skane Sisters. I knitted it I knitted it for my trip to Skane Sisters in Australia, the gorgeous yarn shop in Sydney. And I was going there to teach for a week. And so this was, by then it was 2017. 2017. Bizarre, isn't it, how fast time goes? So anyway, I was going there to teach for a few days, long weekend, and I designed a shawl to take with me, and I used Hannah's yarn from Circus Tonic, and we conjured up some colors that would be good. And I wanted to do a 2-skein shawl. I sort of wanted to do a crescent, but I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting, so I threw all these short rows in it. So if you can see how it's got fat stripes at one side and thin stripes at the other, that is I hope my feed is going okay. That is the short rows working. So you knit back, shorter and shorter. And I do a couple of those short row sequences. And then at the bottom, I use short rows to create that scalloped edge at the bottom that's then finished with an I-cord. It is so much fun. It's not a beginner shawl, but it's not super advanced either. It's just a good combination of lots of cool techniques. And the thing that this shawl started for me was actually, what might have been the first time I did it, but it certainly is the first one that I remember, is the dirty lace idea. So I ended up releasing a shawl recently called Dirty Lace. Do you remember? But this one had lots of what I like to think of dirty lace in it. So instead of purling on the back of the work, you knit on the back of your work. So it creates this sort of nubby, dirty. It's not sleek. It's a sort of a gutsy lace, and that is primo for me. I just absolutely love it. So this is just one of my favorite shawls. Curls beautifully on the corners. I adore the colors, and I've worn that and worn that and worn that shawl. It's just fantastic. But if you're up for a challenge, I think this is a good one. If you're up, not for a big challenge, but if you just have two gorgeous skeins, you're not sure what to do with them, you want to have some actual fun on your needles, you actually want to sit there and be completely entertained, you're going to have to think a little bit, but this is my favorite shawl, I think, for doing that. It's fantastic. The other one I did that year was Flindra, which I have also worn and worn and worn. I don't think it's going to be possible for me ever to design stuff and then have it just as samples. Every now and then I have some stuff that I have as samples that I don't wear so much, but so many of these I have absolutely thrashed myself. But I think that's quite good, because I think it tells me what is working and what I like. And if I see you wearing them, I don't know, I think the ones I wear the most, I think, are the ones that you guys like too. So I think it's probably quite good to stick to what I love, because hopefully you love it too. I don't know, maybe that's just really selfish, me designing for myself. I've got a bit of a frog in my throat. So this one is Flindra. Flindra was it's just so squishy, so gorgeous, so delicious to wear when the weather's really cold, and I feel really fabulous when I throw this one on. It's big. Look, it's so big, and I just throw it all on me, and I usually throw it on a couple of times and then I knot it, and I've got this great big I'm not doing it very well, am I? Because I'm trying to do it backwards and, all the crazy things. But in the winter, when I've got if I have kind of tighter trousers and boots and a slimmer jumper, or not even a slimmer jumper, but if I have somewhere on me, I'm wearing tighter clothes, then when I throw on this great big boofy, great big all around my neck, this huge big snuggle of a shawl, I love that. I love that feeling. I feel like I can do anything, that I could just go out there and conquer the world. That's the kind of feeling it gives me. So I knitted Flindra with Outlaw yarn, which is a New Zealand yarn, and it's a silk Polworth, someone will have to remind me, alpaca, I think is the blend. And it's absolutely stunning yarn. It's so beautiful. It's soft and squishy, has a little bit of a sheen to it with the silk. I'm sorry, the colors are totally blowing out when I try and show you. I'll try and keep it still. This was one of my, probably wasn't my first. You can see some of the things that I really love starting to come in a lot more in my designs. I've done one color work thing. The rest of the stuff, whenever I've used colors that look like color work, it's always slip stitches, and this is where I've started to do it here too. So these are all slip stitches, so it's knit one, slip one, knit one. It's easy color work, one color per row. So I've used that here, which is something I've gone on to use a lot and I love. And I've also used heaps of texture. Just playing with texture is just something I just absolutely love. So that was a huge shawl. This is my biggest shawl that I'd made at that stage, and I think I used about 500 grams of yarn for that shawl. I think 400 grams of the cream and not quite 100 grams of the blue, probably about half, about 50 grams. But it was a big shawl. I hadn't knitted anything so big. And I have loved it. I have loved it. So we can see the trends. Certainly the trends were changing by now. This idea that first of all, I ventured into making 2 skein shawls, and then I'm getting into these really large shawls, which I do every now and then, but not all the time, but I have done them every now and then. So that was by 2017, I was doing that. Scansis has moved up on my queue now, says Sarah. Practice your short rows. Yeah. So in that one, I do super easy short rows. I didn't start doing German short rows until I was doing my garments. I think in a lot of my early shawls and garments, I use just wrap and turns, and they're perfectly good and they work really well. And when you're knitting with garter, a wrap and turn is all you need. It's completely invisible. You don't need anything else. So what was 2018? 2018 was a massive year for me. That was a year. So that was not this year gone, the year before. That was the year that I realized I have a business. Things completely turned around for me. And they were ticking. Before that, things were just ticking along. I was having a ball, and things were just ticking along, and I was sort of growing and having really good fun, knitting stuff I loved. Still not loving everything I designed, though. I think that's what happens in the beginning. There's a really fantastic Ira Glass quote. Have you heard it? It's about creativity, and I can't remember the exact quote, but the gist of it is that you know what you love, and you love things that are beautiful, and you are setting out to make stuff that you love. But unfortunately, the things that you love, it's like they're over there and you're trying to get there. You're trying to make stuff that's as good as the stuff over there. And between you and that, there's a whole bridge that you have to cross of stuff that you don't necessarily love as much. And it's just experiment. And he says it really eloquently. There is actually a quote, but I can't remember it. And I really lived that. I really felt that for a long time. I was making stuff that I was experimenting with, partly because I was also figuring out what I wanted to wear. I think I went through a big phase in my mid-40s where all of a sudden I didn't really know what I wanted to wear anymore. I think I'd moved back to New Zealand. The temperatures were different. My life was different. I was different. I was obviously having hormonal changes that made me feel different. And I just thought, I don't even know who I am. I didn't even know what I want to wear anymore. And I had quite a long period feeling like that. And so I experimented with my designs through that time, and I didn't necessarily love everything I made, but I just kept going. I kept pushing, and seeing if I could actually get there. I think the biggest thing I did that worked for me the best, I think the thing that made the biggest difference to me was I just shut out the noise outside my head. And I think I, and I've done that more and more as time has gone on. You know, I stopped using Instagram earlier last year, and I've stopped following lots of people. I don't look at what other designers are doing for the most part. And I've just tried to focus on my own, like run my own race, like stay in my lane, as Oprah Winfrey would say. So I've tried to stay in my lane, and that makes a huge difference to me. If I can just get rid of some of that noise, then I can hear what I like better. And I've learned that a lot, actually. That's one of the lessons that I didn't realize I had to learn, because I didn't really have any problems with that prior to doing this. So it's been a funny muddle, this whole starting a business and designing and getting older, I think. But 2018, things really changed enormously. I released a couple of patterns that you guys absolutely loved, and all of a sudden, more people were seeing my patterns, more people were using my patterns. I was seeing so many more of my stuff on other people, which just blew my mind. And it just totally transformed how I was feeling about my business and how I wanted to be in my business and what I wanted to make. And it was a super exciting year, 2018. So what did I do? I think the year, I've got a list of things here, and I can't remember which order they went in, but garments really became a thing for me. Garments, I'm a garment person. I'm particularly a cardigan person, but garments really jumped into their own in 2018. So I got into the Liner magazine, and I can't believe this was so long ago, actually, but it's probably not that long ago. But I released Kate in Liner magazine, and I used Cody, was it Cody or Remo? I can't remember now. Sorry, but it's a beautiful yarn from Zalana, and it's warm and light, and it has possum in it. And I think I told you a while ago that was part of my story that I wanted to tell when I was in those the overseas magazines, if I managed to get in any. And I've only ever got in Liner, and I've only actually applied to be in Liner, but what I wanted to reflect was what we had here in New Zealand. You know, the beautiful New Zealand yarns we had down here. I knew we had a thriving knitting scene. I knew we had some really, really talented knitters. I knew we had some beautiful yarn, and I just thought for little New Zealand, I mean, we've got almost 5,000, almost 5 million people down here. We're right at the bottom of the world, and I knew that we had some fantastic stuff to show off. So I made it, you know, I decided I would only use the New Zealand yarn. So I released Kate. I'm sure I've told you the story of Kate before. She's to celebrate Kate Shepherd, the suffragette who fought for women to get the vote, and New Zealand women were the first women to get the vote in the world. So I just wanted her to be, this cardigan is like a classic with a modern twist. And that's what I felt reflected that whole Kate Shepherd story. So anyway, I've worn this one a lot. Probably not as much as my Timely. I've worn that one the most of all, but this one, because it's newer and I wear it in the winter, it's a winter cardi for me, and I just absolutely love it. And I've seen lots of you have made beautiful Kates as well. I'm seeing if you've left some more comments. Your comments are not popping up on my phone, so I'm sorry about that, because if you're leaving comments, I can't see them right now. So you'll just have to keep chatting, and I'll look later. What else did I do 2018? The big year. Juniper was another shawl. Now this was a shawl which I just had a ball knitting this shawl. I absolutely had a ball, and I have worn it. Part of me, the thing about wearing stuff a lot, I can't decide. Is it that I am in love with the colors? Is it that I'm in love with the texture? Is it that the shape works for me? I think it could be a combination of all of those things. Could it be the memory of doing it that I love, or making it fun? I'm not 100% sure. I made this one with Revive Yarn, Deb from Revive Yarn, and I conjured up, I think we conjured up the colors. If Deb's watching, she'll remember. And I knitted this shawl. It starts in the corner, and it's a really fun one to knit, and you work all the way up with this fun little shaping, lots of easy peasy garter, lots of easy peasy lace work, and it knits all the way to the end where you cast it off, and it has tassels on the end to make it really fun. It's a fun shawl. It's 3 skeins of fingering. This is a sock yarn. It's just a simple, not fussy yarn. I'm trying to think now, but it's got the colors that sort of merge one into the other, smooshing. The colors smoosh into each other, and I have loved. I've worn this one a lot. I love it. You can have your pop of color at the end and your lovely swathe of color through the middle. This one's great. It's a really good opportunity to have a shawl that sort of blends in. It can keep you warm and add a little bit of interest to your outfit, but it doesn't have to scream at you that, look at me, look at me. It's a good opportunity for that, because I think the lace and the texture in it are enough interest to have quite a simple color. Do you get what I'm saying? I don't know. I really like this one anyway. This has just been, I just think I love the colors. It looks pretty washed out and bland on my screen, but it's super, super wearable. I think that's the other thing about choosing yarn for things, is deciding, do I want this to be a real bright pop where this is the feature of my outfit, or do I want this just to be a lovely, smooth, muted, basic that I can just throw on with just about everything I own. And sometimes for a shawl, that's exactly what you want, isn't it? Because you want to be able to wear it with so many different things. Really do have a frog in my throat today. Okay, so there was still in 2018. There were 2 more that year. No, 1 more that year. 2 more that year. 2 more that year. Then there was the massive one from 2018. Floozy cardigan was huge, wasn't it? Floozy cardigan was just the first. That it was amazing. You guys were amazing. The whole thing was just an experience. Poor Katrine from Yarn Floozy just didn't know what hit her. I didn't know what hit me either when we released it, but I didn't have to dye all the yarn once everybody saw the cardigan and wanted to have the yarn. So she says to me that she's never been, she hasn't taken a rest since she met me or something. What do you say, Katrine? I keep her busy. And so Floozy was super, super good fun. We had a really good feeling about this one, but when we were making it, I really enjoy working with Katrine. I think we have a great, from Yarn Floozy, I think we have a great friendship and great dynamic. And the whole thing was just fun and light, and it was just fun. And here, look, this is where I decided I would use slip stitches in a garment. And I hadn't seen anyone using slip stitches in a garment. I knew I liked them. I didn't want to venture into color work, proper color work. And I wanted to try something that was fun and different. And so, this one looks a bit washed out as well, doesn't it, on the screen? But Floozy was born. And yeah, we have I have a couple of Floozies. This is the one I wear the most, the little pink one. It's smaller than my gold one, but I like wearing it just as a little like, this is the kind of thing that I would wear to sort of shine. So if I'm wearing this little bright little pink cardi, then I'm wearing a bright little pink cardi. I'm not wearing something muted with other things going on. My whole outfit isn't cohesive. I'm wearing this little cute little pop of color, and that's just, I really like that some days. So Floozy, Floozy was fantastic. She was just so much fun to make, so much fun to release to you. We released her in a totally different way. I've told you the whole story about that before. And we had a ball, didn't we? You will be very pleased to hear. I know we released our Floozy jumper at the end of last year, and we are already working on another cardigan. So something else is going to come out this year. So just wait for it. It's going to be as exciting as last time. And I absolutely cannot wait to show you the ideas we've had behind the scenes, and the colors that we've come up with are just beautiful. So I'm busy now. My job now is to bring it to life and to create something that you guys are going to have really, really good fun knitting and are going to love to wear. So that's what's happening now. The other last one in 2018, which I have loved and I have worn and worn and worn, and this truly is a pop of color when I throw it on my top of my jeans, is Rebel Rebel. And Rebel Rebel was just fun from start to finish. It was totally different construction to anything I'd done before, reasonably simple construction, but super effective to wear. The color of my yarn is electric citrus yellow, and when I put this one on, I feel fantastic. And this is when I started to, I think by now I've really had a better sense of what it was that I love to design, what features about a design are the things that really speak to me. And so this one had all the things that I love, little fun details like the split cuff, um, texture with the garter, relative simplicity to things, or at least that's how it seems. There seems like there's a relative simplicity, but it's all the little attention to detail is what makes me really, really happy. So things about the way the front is finished, the little V at the back of the neck, just lots of little details. I can lose myself in tiny details that seem that we don't really notice them so much at first, but I know they're there, and when you're knitting them, they're there. And I think that's been a real marker for me in the stuff that I've made. So that was 2018. And then last year, I'm sorry, I'm just going to race through last year because it was so close. We all remember it, but there were so many things that I designed last year that I absolutely loved. And I feel like I'm getting a little closer to that bridge. I'm getting a little closer to that, to those designs on the other side. And I think the reason for that is it's just so many reasons for that. I think partly because I've been doing this a while now, and I'm certainly getting a better sense of what I like. I've been doing it a while so that I have things that I can call on that I know have worked in terms of maths and numbers and grading and shape. And I can really focus on some of the detailing that I love and the overall impression of a design. So I think that's played a big part to it. I also think I have those funny hormonal years that I have really come to it. Well, they're not at an end, but I think I've really things have changed for me, so I feel kind of different now than I did a couple of years ago. I think I feel more grown up in my business. I think I feel like I don't feel embarrassed now when I tell people. They say, "What do you do?" I don't feel that, oh crikey, how am I going to explain this? I design knitting patterns. What they used to say. And I don't feel that at all now. I feel a sense of, no, I've got this cool little business. I've made it myself. I've worked really hard. I absolutely love it. And honestly, I'm creating this business that works for me. And it's still not, I still work a lot and I still have this kind of crazy work-life thing that is completely unbalanced, but I can see where I want to go with this. And so I don't feel so, I feel quite proud of what I've been able to do, I guess. So that's made a difference, I think, to why I've made many things I like. And also, I think it's that noise factor. I think I really recognize that I've just lost the FOMO. And so I have you guys, and I have what we do and what you do, and I love that. And then I have what I'm up to. I have my Pacifico stuff I'm working on with Marie, and I talk to her a lot, and we enjoy each other's company so much, and I love seeing what she's up to. And that's about it, really. I don't really need, apart from all these beautiful dyers and all the people that make yarn, I don't really need a huge, I don't need all the knitting noise, and I have enough. I make enough knitting noise to satisfy me. And I think that's been quite huge for me. And it just means that I can really enjoy what I'm doing. I just don't feel worried that it's not going to be good enough because I'm not comparing it to anyone else. I think it's a real life lesson, actually. It's this whole business thing. Honestly, you want to go on a personal development course, start a business. It's bizarre how much you have to figure out about yourself. Okay, so 2019, I haven't released anything this year yet. 2019 was pretty huge. I worked really hard. I was a little bit burnt out after I released Pacifico because I had just stormed through a whole lot of designs. I had already been working on stuff myself as well. And I hadn't paced myself particularly well. I absolutely had a ball going to America and visiting Marie and doing all that. So it was a real year of highlights for me. But in terms of the designing, the first thing I put out, I think the first thing I put out is that I've worn a lot is Tui. I've got a label in it so that when I take this to shows and people try it on, or I'm putting it on, it's easy to work out the back. And also because it's very cute, it says, "This is the back." Can you see that? This is the back. I don't know if you can see that. This is the back. Cutest little labels. They're from someone called Kylie and the Machine. Fantastic little labels. I have them for my sewing table. So Tui is a blacker yarn, and I use the linen wool blend. And the idea was that Tui was going to be a sweatshirt. So a sweatshirt's like the summer jumper, a summer sweater. It's not a heavy wool sweater. We get very warm here. It's very muggy, very humid. And so I don't want to be putting on a wool sweater in the winter, in the summer. It's too hot for me. This is perfect. This is perfect. And I've actually just finished in the last couple of weeks another sweatshirt in the same yarn in totally different colors. Remember I showed you a sneaky peek of the little stripy top, and it's a little raglan. I love it. I love it. I am so pleased with it. I've tried it on both my teenage girls, and one's almost a teenager, and it fits them as well. And one of my teenagers is the same size as I am, slightly bigger in the bust. It looks amazing on her. And I've tried it on my younger girl. She's almost 13, and she's smaller than me, but it's sort of slightly sloppy. It looks so good. Anyway, that's coming this year with Pacifico, with our next collection. But this one, Tui, I have worn and worn and worn. The more you wash it, it's the linen in it makes it relax and drape and sloppy, and I have absolutely love it. And I've worn this a lot just in the last few weeks because our weather's been temperamental. Sorry, I'm moving it around so much, and I know it's so hard for you to see. It has these cool little turned up cuffs. I know lots of you have made Tui. It has a high-low hem, so you can see the high-low hem there that has the little color contrast underneath. So yeah, I've worn that one heaps. Tui was a really, really good addition to my wardrobe, actually. The next one that I've got, which I also wear a lot, and so I do wear it in this kind of weather, but I tend to wear it when the weather's starting to cool a little bit, just as the autumn feeling is coming, but before summer's finished. We have quite a long period of that here in New Zealand, where our summer things start getting warm in about November. October, November. By November, December, things are warmer. And then it's hot, usually through to about March. And then we have a long period, April, May, even into June sometimes, where things are just slowly cooling down. We do not have sudden changes of season here. We don't have big lots of blossoms. We don't have a beautiful fall or autumn weather. It's a really slow creep. It's quite different. And so I need stuff that's going to sort of see me through for a long time. And Tui is this. And Tui is, it's another British yarn, actually. I used Meadow yarn from the fiber company. That's who they're called. And it's this beautiful, super lightweight. It's like a 3-ply. It's a really light fingering, super light fingering. So it's a very light to touch. It has linen in it again. It has silk in it again. I think it has camel. It has all these beautiful fibers in it from memory. It also needs a bit of a de-pill, I can see, because I have these long pills. You can see how much I wear these things, the ones that I haven't de-pilled. So it's another one that has that. I played again with that little construction around the neck. Actually, I may have done this one before. I have this funny feeling. I mustn't know. Maybe I did it second after Rebel. I've lost touch now, but I think I put it out beginning of last year. It has the little hole in the cuff with the little button, which I love that detail. and it has the pretty little patterning that goes all the way down the front, and it has a set-in sleeve, and it just sits back and sits right, and it doesn't do up. You can just pop it over with short sleeves. It's a really lightweight. It's a lovely light layer, and oh my gosh, I love wearing this cardigan. I feel something in this cardigan. I feel like a different person in this cardigan, or at least I feel like a version of myself. So I think it makes me feel, it's very feminine, which I really enjoy wearing feminine clothes. I've never been a girly type of person, but I really have loved being a woman, and I loved wearing feminine things, and but not frilly. I'm not a frilly person. It's something about that kind of, it's that whole suffragette fight for women kind of stuff that I really have loved. And I think this gives me a sense of that. This gives me a sense that my sleeves are already up, so I don't have to roll up my sleeves. I'm already ready to go. But I have a softness. I feel a softness about me, but I can do anything. I think that's probably the vibe I go for most days. My corners are rounded, but I can do anything. That's I think my vibe. That's what I like to feel like anyway. So Huia is fantastic. She's a really great little cardi, and I have enjoyed wearing her. And then it's too many. There's too many last year. I'm really sorry. There's so many I've really enjoyed. Georgie, I loved, and I wore to absolute pieces all over the winter. Georgie was another one I did for Liner magazine, another New Zealand yarn. It's also from Outlaw Yarn. It's Bohemia Sport. So it's got that beautiful fuzz of, it's got a beautiful halo because it's got alpaca and possum in it with a Polworth, and it is just divine, absolutely divinely soft, very light. It drapes like crazy. Look at it. It also creases. You can see the creases where it's been folded in my box. But Georgie is easy to wear and fun, and you can really see now this whole I'm embracing the texture. I love a good yarn. I love a good wool, and I don't know, just simple but details. I think that's become the name of the game. Look at my pile; it's getting bigger and bigger. Then I had my Pacifico collection that came out. Now, this was really hard to choose because I actually liked a lot of that Pacifico collection. There are two particularly that I haven't brought here, but because I decided these were the ones that I have worn the most, that I've really enjoyed. And the first one is Kapua. And Kapua has a drop shoulder. It's another one of those open fronted cardigans, but it has this fabulous collar. So you stay warm, because I don't like getting cold. I don't know about you. I like having that warm collar around my neck. So I'm definitely showing my age like that. So I like to stay warm. It has this beautiful little teardrop pattern all over it. I held two yarns together for this one. This is from Shibui, and I used Seema and Silk Cloud, and I held them together. And one of them is a mohair, and the other one is a baby alpaca, I think. And oh my goodness, they have just sung together. The halo is beautiful. This is like wearing it's just so soft. This is the cardigan. When you're wearing it, it's incredibly light. You are so warm. I am so warm, and everybody touches your arm. Everybody. Oh, they stroke you. Oh, they say, oh, it's so nice. And to be perfectly frank, you don't mind holding out your yarn because it's so fabulous. So you let everyone stroke you. Kapua, it was a really good one. So that one was this was a thinking knit, I have to tell you. This one got my brain really going, and because I've incorporated short row shaping into the patterning, which I didn't do with Georgie because the yarn was so sloppy and it was more of a relaxed garment. And so I just haven't done, and I wanted this to be more for beginners. So I've just done the shoulder drops beautifully without having a deliberate angle on the shoulders, but this one has actually got an angled shoulder, short row shaping on the shoulder, which gives it a lovely fit around the shoulder for this when you're wearing it open as a cardigan. And I've also got the collar, so you knit it from the top and you knit it down all in one piece. It's a thinking knit. It's not a beginner knit at all, but it's not so overly complicated. I think if you just follow my instructions, then you'll get it. And I've seen lots of you do that. There's a couple of cardigans I've done in the same style, similar style. And if you can just get just can do what I say, then you'll be fine. It's just doing what I say that can be the hard thing. But yeah, this one really stretched my brain. I love the maths. I really do love the maths part of it. I love the problem solving, and I see it all as like a puzzle. So as I'm designing, I'm not only thinking of ways to make the garment work for all the sizes, because I design all the sizes at the same time, but I'm also thinking, how do I make this so that it flows for you? How do I make this so it's easiest to follow and so that you can follow it without getting confused? I want you to have a really nice knitting experience, and I want it to be like a dance. I want you just to flow through the pattern. So I have a lot going on in my head when I'm writing them. But yeah, Kapua has been lovely, and I'm looking forward to another winter this winter where I can really get to wear it, because I didn't release it until the end of about August, was it August, September last year, and I didn't really get to wear it for a lot of last winter, so I'm looking forward to wearing that one again. And this is another one which I'm really looking forward to another winter to be able to wear, and this is Flux. And Flux uses Julie Asselin yarn. It's nurtured. It's a beautiful, robust, soft but really complex yarn. It has beautiful colors in it. I don't know if you're going to see them so well on the screen, but the colors in this yarn are just so lovely because there's so many, and they're all just sort of fed through. It's a absolutely divine yarn. I love it, and I really embrace the texture with this one. It's all over texture. It's this fantastic ripple pattern, and then I've topped it off with the details. And so you don't have to put the buttons on this one, but it's got buttonholes all the way down the edge, I-cord buttonholes. And I used those before on my Itsumo cardigan, and I loved them so much. I knew I wanted to use them again. And so I incorporated them into something that you wouldn't normally have I-cord buttonholes on, which is a shawl or a big wrap. So this is another, look, it's enormous. It's an enormous wrap, and you wrap it around, and I've done this before for you, and you wrap it around, and then you can button it so that it won't come off when it's windy and cold. And I have to say, this is it's a great coat substitute in on a cool day when you don't really need a big coat. This is a great over the top, dress it up, you feel like you've finished your outfit off with this. And I cannot wait to wear this one again all winter. It is actually one of my all-time favorite shawls, because I love the size of it. I love the yarn. I love the fact that it has buttons and buttonholes. I love that about it. So that was a fun one. And then lastly, and I can't go by last year without mentioning the last one, which is Floozy 2. And Floozy 2 was, I redesigned it to make Floozy a jumper. I adore these colors. And I think it was really fun to realize, or to know, that it was okay to take a pattern that I'd done before and mix it up and do it again, and keep enjoying it. And that freedom that I was able to do that made me really happy, because I love this pattern I love this design as a sweater, and I wore it a lot when the weather was still cool at the end of last year. I am going to thrash it this winter. I just know I am. I adore the colors. The yarn we used it's the same yarn we used for Floozy. It's a silk merino cashmere, and it is silky soft, really light, fine. I don't know. I feel fabulous in this yarn. It's like special yarn, and makes you feel a little bit dressed up without going overboard. So I have really enjoyed that little sweater as well. The little bit I've had to wear of it, but the colors just make my heart sing. How about that? I just love it. There was a lot of talking. I'm going to see if you've said anything, because, you've said lots of things. Here we go. You've just wrapped up in your juniper, says cake's on your to-do list. Rochelle says, thanks for the quote. Rochelle, yeah, I should remember the quote. Ira Glass. look up Ira Glass. If you Google Ira Glass, I think it's probably the most famous thing Ira Glass has said. He's still around, and I just thought it was a lovely quote about and the gist of it is do more, do more. Don't wait for perfection. Don't spread things out. Don't aim for perfection. Perfection doesn't exist, does it? But just do more, make more work. And I've really taken that on board. I just do more. I'm just going to do more. I'm not even going to think about it. If I've made something that I'm not 100% about, that I hasn't worked out exactly how I wanted, or I'm not wearing it like I thought I would, I'm not going to dwell on that. And I'm a person with very few regrets. I just am moving forward kind of person. And I just move forward, and I just get on with the next thing. And I look and I see all the beautiful stuff that I've got to work with, and I just keep on going. And I think that's been, I don't know, that's just the way I operate. And I think it's really worked in my favor to keep that in mind, so that I can get closer to making things that really sing for me, that are designs that reflect what I want to actually be designing. And I'm sure it will be a lifelong quest. I don't think it's a destination I'm going to reach, that I think I'll just keep going and I'll keep pushing. And more often than not, I'm going to get stuff I'm happy with. I think that's what hopefully might happen. What am I going to say? How do I choose the names for my designs? I think choosing names is the worst part of the whole process. I find it really hard. Not always. Sometimes a name just comes to me. Excuse me, I have to cough a little bit because that frog is in my throat. Sometimes a name just pops into my head. So Floozy was one of those. Floozy just popped into my head. I don't know. I like names that make me laugh. So Rebel, and Floozy are two that make me laugh just quietly inside. I just like it. I just think I have a strange sense of humor, but they make me laugh. So other names like Georgie, I think Georgie, when I was coming up with the concept for that design, this little jumper, when I was coming up the concept for that one, and I had to submit it to Liner magazine with the photos of the idea and the swatches and the little bit of blurb I'd written about it, I needed a name. And that one was about the story of that garment in my head was, it was remembering those days where, do you remember those days when I was probably in my late teens, early 20s, where life just was this long stretch ahead of you, and I had no responsibilities, very few no real responsibilities. I could just spend the whole day, I could while away a day with my friends, we could laze about, we could lie in the sun, we could just live today, because we weren't worried about what was going to happen. We weren't worried about what happened yesterday. We're probably talking about what happened yesterday, but we weren't last night. But there was just that feeling of that sort of carefree feeling was what I wanted to capture with that garment. And I just wanted to have that feeling. And I do have that actually with that garment. You put it on and you just feel a sense of it's like a kind of a hug, that jumper. And but it's that carefree feeling. And when I was thinking of that, the name Georgie popped into my head, and I don't know why. I might have thought about, for some reason, the Beatles have come into my head. And so whether there was something that the Beatles had ever done, I don't know. My mind starts to wander, and then it's as if a little word is downloaded from the cloud, and there it is. I have the name. So sometimes that happens. Sometimes I can look at them and I can think that's what you're going to be called. Sometimes, like Timely cardigan was a deliberate choice of name, because that cardigan, I made the first version of that cardigan, which I still wear. It's really shabby though. I made the first version of that in about 2013, and I didn't release it till years later. And it was timely. It was time. It was just part of that whole time concept. And so Timely was quite a deliberate name. I've just got a new one. The new one that I've just finished, this little sweatshirt that I've been working on, is going to be called Maiden. And someone in my testing group, which has just gone out to be tested, and it's like a little crew neck, and she suggested the idea of crew because it's sort of like those, I was thinking of ships and boats and crew, and so she said crew, and I thought crew, and I thought, what are the women? Is there a name for when you have a female on board or a woman on a boat? What's the name for that? And I had a look on the internet, and I discovered that the first woman only, female only yacht to race in a Whitbread race was called Maiden. That was the name of the ship, name of the yacht, Maiden. And apparently they completely paved the way for other women to come behind them in the yachting world. And I'm not a sailor, but I do love the sea. But I thought Maiden, I like that. I like that about it, because it's this, the sweatshirt that I've designed is a sort of a tomboy style sweatshirt, but it has a very feminine twist. It has fabulous shaping around the bust. And so that kind of felt right, I think. That Maid Marian, you know, and I don't know, Maiden. Anyway, she's called Maiden. So sometimes I have a little bit of a while to get there. Sometimes I ask my children. So my daughter, who's nearly 13, has helped me with quite a few names. So you'll see quite a Percy Jackson phase running through there. And then I think there might be a Harry Potter phase with some of those names that I've said to her, I just can't think of what to call this one. Can you suggest something? And she will give me a name. And more often than not, they're really great names and they've really worked. So I'm trying to think of one now. Lyra. Did I use Lyra? No, I haven't. She's standing there. Juniper. She's whispering to me. She's watching. Juniper. So my Juniper shawl was named by Nellie. She named Juniper shawl, which is this one. So there's a few that she's named. So so I come up with names of lots of different ways. Tui and Huia are beautiful New Zealand birds. They are. And the Tui jumper, this one here, you know, Tuis have those beautiful colors on them. Like they're mostly a really dark bird, and then but they have a real purpley look to them. And then they have that little tuft underneath with these lovely other colors and greens. And it just felt, even though it doesn't look like a Tui, it felt Tui-ish. So that needed to be Tui. And Huia was one that I hunted around for, because Huias were so precious, weren't they? And now they're lost. So Huia cardigan, this little cardigan here, is named after a New Zealand bird as well. So yeah, there's lots of them, lots of names. Okie doke. Everyone's just saying a good word for Liz is saying a good word for 2020. Do you know what my word for 2020 is? I don't really have a word, but I was thinking about it the other day, and I thought, I think mine is something along the lines of not relax, but like settle in, or just rest, I suppose. I'm not going to, it's kind of a funny thing. I haven't really got a word, but I have an idea of what I want 2020 is going to be about. I've got some really big ideas for you this year. I'm really terrified about doing it, about launching these things, but I have some really, really cool stuff that I'm working really hard on, and I can't wait to show you and tell you a bit more. So I need to be able to just not freak out about it and have a rest at the same time. Ease, something like that. I need to be able to do this in a way that is not high pressure or high stress or frenetic. I'm just having a natural progression. Some of the things that I've got planned for you this year are a natural progression of where I want to be going, what I want to be doing, what I see everybody doing around me in our community. And I hope you love it. But I've got a lot of work to do, so I'm not going to tell you anymore until I actually do it. But okay, so yeah, so my vibe this year, I've just got so many ideas. I feel much more settled in the whole designing side of things. I'm working on a little top right now, which I tried on last night, and I am loving. I'm just embracing only the things I love. And so it's a fairly simple little top, but it has these beautiful details. I'm not even going to do anything with my hands because that'll give it away. But I'm looking forward to finishing that. And then I've got something else to do. And then I've got so many things to show you this year. Anyway, stick around because it's going to be fun. And I'm just so pleased. And our little group that we've got, our hangout, it's such a happy place to be. I am so thrilled with you all in the group and being part of the group and joining in. And it's your group. It's your group. So if you've been watching and not saying anything, you're allowed to say something. I know that feeling where you're sort of watching, observing, and you're not sort of jumping in. And I sometimes do that in other spaces, but you're allowed to jump in. This is totally your space. You can jump in, show us what you're making, show off all your Truly Myrtle patterns. It is a Truly Myrtle dedicated space. And so I'm conscious of that it's, if you're making stuff for Truly Myrtle, show us that. And let's talk about patterns that you've got, you've got questions about, or that you want to learn more about, or you've got ideas for yarn for, or all that kind of stuff. But it is your space, so make the most of it this year. It's really nice to have. It's I don't know. I enjoy having a little corner of the internet that we can go to, and we can just relax and indulge in all the things that we love. And it's unique, I think, being able to do that in the world, isn't it? So anyway, that was a long chat. I talked for ages. You see, I had lots of things to show you. I hope you have a lovely week. I'm going to be back next week, the same time, same place next week. My children have done very well to be very quiet. Only 2 of them are actually awake. The other 2 are fast asleep, no doubt. But I'll be here at the same time next week. And then after that, I'll have 1 week off. And then I'll be back again. So I'll see you same time, same place next week. Thank you for sticking around with me for 5 years. It has been an amazing ride. I cannot believe 5 years has gone by where I've really made an effort to do this. And if you've been around since the beginning of the blog, well done. There's a long time. But oh my goodness, I just never anticipated when I started all this what a huge part of my life you would all be, and all of this designing would be, and yarn would be, and knitting would be. So thank you so much for joining me. Anyway, I will see you same time, same place next week. Have a lovely week. Bye, everybody.